Hello everybody, welcome to the secret history inside of your aquarium. I'm Alexander Williamson, your talkative host, talking at you. Basically today, what I'm going to show you is that the inch per gallon rule is nonsense. If you know what you're doing or you're talking about nano fish, or even, if you want to call them micro fish, that would be another name for when they're this small. So, as you can see, I also have quite a few shrimp in here. The clearish ones are called Malawa or Malawa shrimp, however you want to say it. I've heard many pronunciations of it, but they're just kind of a nice clear shrimp that eats algae and has this nice kind of metallic speckled look. You can see it's eaten some detritus off the floor of the tank, and then I also have neocaridina blue dreams. Now this tank was kind of covered in algae for a while because of some fertilizer changes I did, but it is now looking much better, and I haven't even been plucking it by hand or anything like that. So I want to show you some new additions to the tank that actually accomplished schooling features in a 17 gallon. This is a small tank. This would work in a 10 gallon, I would assure you as well. So what did I do to get a shoaling fish to school in a nano tank? Well, I got these axelrod blue blue rasboras, sorry, not corridors, and I've had them in here. They're a Myanmar species, and there were about 7 of them, and they kind of stick together. And then I bought these somphong rasboras, which I think are my new favorite fish. They look electric. They have a golden color, but it turns just beautiful. It turns all sorts of hues of other beautiful colors, and I just love that pattern. They're small, and they actually kind of school a little bit. So you'll notice that everyone kind of goes back and forth in a group. When I'm this close to the glass, they do it a little less because they're cautious, but you'll see that action, especially since I have really high flow for a nano tank. And what I added recently from my trip down to Portland, Oregon, which does throw off this tank being predominantly from Myanmar or Burma, is I added these beautiful, they're called purple tetras, and they're not really purple tetras. I don't think they're even really a tetra, honestly. They're more of a rasbora type fish, a cyprinid type fish, but they're in a family, kind of a small family of fish, the Hyphosobricon, and then they're from the Matay River, which is also where you get some of my favorite corridoras from, the Panda corridora and the Julii corridora as well. So they're not from the right continent, and I have just had to concede that that's too bad. But look at that beautiful powder and electric blue. I don't know how it's possible, but they reflect everything from a clearish purple all the way to a metallic powder blue and an electric blue too. So they're just really great fish. They're really small, and they also, all these little fish tend to come from low TDS water with low, so that's going to be like a low amount of debris in the water, a low amount of dissolved solids in the water. And so in here, the TDS is about 100. My tap is about 28, which helps. So from the start, that's a big help. But this guy here, he's going to get too big, and he's eating algae in the tank for now, and that's why he's got a plump belly. And this is a Pandagara. These are wonderful little fish that oftentimes will come and kiss your hand, eat off your hand, which is great. You can see here, this one actually, I just got these yesterday, looks stressed and looks as though he may have some sort of an issue with his health. So I might be pulling him back out, putting him back into quarantine here now that I see that going on during this video. It's always important. I happen to know the quarantine process of the shop that I bought them from, and they have been in the country for over 45 days. They have received deworming and deparasiting meds, and so I tossed them right in. But it's a shock to their system going from one water system to another. Now, another fish from Myanmar, Southeast Asia that I tossed in here is the beautiful Phoenix rasbora. Now, these define nano or microfish. These fish are not even half an inch long oftentimes. They have this beautiful red pattern on them, as you can see, and it just increases in vividness as they get more active in the day, as they feed, as they chase each other, and they will kind of shoal too. But it's really that tetra species that has gotten these fish to start shoaling together, and it gives nice movement. When I sit back a little ways, you'll see them all start heading the other way again. So in this tank, which is a 17-gallon tank, you would say you should only have 17 inches of fish. Well, I have about 50 inches of fish in here, and my nitrates are at 0. So it can work out. You just need to know what you're doing. You just need to know that, for instance, these little teeny-bodied fish are not going to excrete the kind of waste that even, say, a little bit wider fish, a Coridora or a black neon tetra or a lemon tetra or emperor tetra, penguin tetra, you name it. It doesn't put out as much bio waste, and what that means, ammonia, that means nitrates in the end, and that allows you to really pack these tanks dense, especially when your tank is densely planted. I also have celestial pearl danios, erythromicron, the striped guys back there that look like little trout, and then we have multi-barred pygmy loaches, and then we also have Panda Loaches, which are one of my favorite. There are 11 in here, but they kind of hide midday and come out just for food. So that's kind of their little MO. Here's an adult one right here, and you can see they don't look quite as banded. They're more of like a chain link pattern, but nevertheless, still a very cool fish. That's what the adults tend to look like if you get the ones from Myanmar. And the ones from other parts of Thailand and China, I meant China about those ones anyways, they can have kind of a creamish color, but there are actually 2 different populations known, and one is not known very well, but they have both been collected. Here's a younger specimen that you can kind of see through the bushes, but you see his patterning is black, white, black, white, black, white with a little black nose, and that is the pattern that they have. Now, the last fish that's a little off kilter in this tank is the Aru2s, which are just growing out. They're going to be 2 inches long, so they're going to go goodbye, but they're quick little buggers, and these are from Gary Lang. So they are the long guys with the white at the back of their tail, kind of, that are not the other fish that I talked about. So this group seems to be quite the mix in allowing schooling behavior in the tank, because rasboras are not nearly the schoolers that tetras tend to be, and I think at the same size and without any major predators in the tank, it gives them the confidence to go out and school when they have those tetras present. And so I think this is a really dynamic and interesting change that we're seeing in the tank. And I hope that it holds true for other rasboras. I just had never really tried it in a tank that didn't have big fish also. When you have big fish, the fish all kind of tend to hide in the back like that most of the time and down low. But you can tell they're really healthy and happy when they're up and weaving through there, going through the middle, going through the bushes, all of it. So I really like to see that. Now, as for plants, a couple new plants in here since the last time you saw maybe. We've got some pogo stem and hellfry, which I love. It's from a tissue culture, and a lot of times it honestly is a really rough one to get to grow from a tissue culture. But we're working on it. And we've also got some Limnophilia aromatica hippodroides, and we also have one of my new favorites, which is Carbamba fructata. We saw it flowering earlier, and it is really collecting a lot of algae, and I haven't manually removed any algae in a week or so. And so that should show you that from 3 weeks ago when I had the huge algae bloom in this tank, I didn't do anything to this tank other than the stuff we talked about in the video and 1 day of removing some clumps of algae, and it looks this much better. So you really can dial it in without just using a bunch of algae eaters or Excel. You can go check out those videos elsewhere. Another sign that this tank is doing well is the pink Wallachia, the Rotala Wallachii, however you'd like to say it. It is a very tough plant to grow. It just does not like to grow for a lot of people, and the fact that it's pink in places, I haven't quite mastered it, but it is definitely doing well for this tank. You can see more of the Panda Loaches coming out. These guys are really charming. They've got a lot of personality in their little group. They kind of leapfrog all over the tank, and I just love watching them. So it's important when you're figuring out how you're going to cram your nano tank with a bunch of life. It is really important to have all your bases covered. Your cleanup crew, your substrate shufflers, so like I'm using Malaysian trumpet snails, got lots of water turnover, way too much filtration if there is such a thing. And it's just biofiltration mostly. It's just cloth that catches bacteria and has a big surface area for it to grow. Up above, we've got plants that are just floating, like Bus philandra, that I'm floating so that it can grow, and it's actually coming out immersed, and that lets it grow faster, and it also lets it, sometimes it lets it turn into flowering stages, which is always really fun to look at. So this tank is crammed, and for scale wise, it's crammed like you would cram a tank with a sump at, like, a dentist or something. So it's pretty cool to see it flourishing and doing so well. This is ADA aqua soil. That brings the pH down to around 6.0, 6.5, which also is more acidic, and how a lot of these little tetras and rasboras like it. Now, the shrimp don't necessarily love that, and neocaridina shrimp need a higher TDS generally, or GH and KH, general hardness and calcite hardness, but they will do okay if their food has enough of the minerals that they're needing for their shell to regenerate. Now, what are some big signs in this tank, as I've had it up and running over a year now? What are some signs of trouble that I would look for? Well, other than getting out the testing kit, which is always a good idea, but as you have a tank for a while, you get to know it and its quirks. And what I look for is either the Rotala Wallachii not being pink at the top like that. I look for crypts melting or anything odd like that, that's new crypts. I look for algae growth or algae going away completely. I look for leaves that are yellow like that. That's usually a phosphate shortage. However, with the algae growing and enough light, I know that it's not a phosphate shortage. So we may have an iron shortage, and that's really a time when I need to consider, do I need an anubias in this environment? It's a pretty highlight environment, and with some of the yellowing I'm seeing, maybe it's better to put it in a high TDS tank downstairs with lower flow, lower light. Maybe that would make it happier. Don't fight your tank. That's my biggest piece of advice. Don't fight your water parameter in your tank. You see that yellowing? It's not happy, even though it looks cool. Bucephalandra, same with that boost. It looks like it's, it's okay, but it could be doing better. It could be looking like these ones down here. So maybe get it out of the light, maybe get it out of that direct flow a little bit. Lots of things we can do, but those are all great clues and indicators on how your tank at large is doing. And as our fish, obviously, if you have any fish die for no reason, that's a big concern. You want to look and make sure that the fish don't have abrasions or, discoloration of red or sores or things like that. And you want to make sure that you don't see a sunken belly or bulging eyes for dropsy and other issues. But these fish are all doing really great, except for that one new tetra who's got kind of a funky color on his back right up there that could be the start of something. So I want to put him aside. And other than that, everything is looking good. The algae's going away. I'll probably pull out a couple last pieces of it here. And with the help of all these shrimp and fish, it'll be gone in no time. The multi-striped loaches also really help out with that. So here's that tetra one more time that I'm saying I am worried about him being new. He's got a white spot on his back. So very cool. Lots of dynamic stuff going on in this tank. These Aru2s, as I mentioned, the long skinny guys with the white tails up there with a fin below and on top are both kind of big curves. These guys they kind of compete with those little yellow fins by their pectoral fins, and with their tail fins and their top dorsal fin. They put on a really cool show, just trying to impress everybody. Now, that was rubbing there that we just saw from that female guppy, and she's very pregnant, and so I expect to see that a little bit. But that would be another sign that your fish aren't healthy. So if you see too much of that, or you see fish doing it on rocks rather than plants, that is another indication that maybe something is off, and you just might want to look at it. And another fun indication that I'm seeing here is that we have just a bit around the edges. We see a little bit of black beard algae that could be forming. Now, that doesn't mean that your tank is unhealthy by any means. A lot of people just let it grow on their filters and whatnot, and that's fine with them. Me, however, this is kind of my show tank, so the fact that I was going to move the Anubias and things like that anyways, I'll probably be taking care of that. This is a pretty low maintenance tank in that I trim the rotala mainly, and everything else is a fairly slow grower. But I do have CO2 running, especially for that rotala wallichii and for the pinks and colors that we see up top that are just really nice. It also helps lower the pH during the daytime, which is helpful as well. And nearite snails are my snail of choice in this tank. So you can see which plants are doing well. The Kabamba furtata is doing great, it looks like, which I'm really happy about. Look at that pink coloration right there. That's just awesome. And the Cryptocorin red spiralis tiger crypt, that big red one there, striped, it is doing phenomenal as well. So is the Ludwigius exlacustris, and same with the Boos. But it looks like some of the Ludwigia here is looking a little bit sun-bleached almost. And that's probably from having two lights so close to it so much. Some plants love that, others don't. And this plant, I think I'll probably be moving into a darker tank when I shift that Anubias. So it's always good to let your plants tell you what they need by looking at them. And there's lots of great color charts online if you search color changes and plant deficiencies. All right, you guys, I hope you really enjoyed checking out this tank with me. It's been a labor of love for the last year and more for decades if you count the time I've been in the hobby. And I hope you like the new fish too, those purple tetras or blue tetras, whatever you want to call them, and the beautiful rasboras, the Phoenix rasboras, or I think they're called Mera rasboras, Merah, however you would say that, Mera or Mera. So, alright you guys, thanks for joining. If you stuck around this long, you better subscribe to my channel. I think it's just in the cards for you. So, you're going to love the shorter videos and other content. And also, if you want to help out, let me get a better camera, get more HD footage, better colors, true to life, brighter than they appear here and in the live streams. I have a Patreon, and that's my sole source of income for this channel, really. So, alright guys, I hope you're all doing well, taking care of your fish, taking care of the people around you and yourselves, and have a wonderful day. All those things will come back your way and take care of you in life when you invest your heart and soul into it. I'll talk to you next time on The Secret History, Living Inside Your Aquarium. Bye.